Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to episode number 115 of Speaking from the Heart. And today, I'm going to give you some of my deepest, darkest secrets as it relates to the fear of public speaking, at least the untold fears of public speaking, for that matter. Because I think oftentimes we are put into a situation where we think that we need to have all these incredible skills in order to share our messaging. But yet, at the same time, that's only one piece of the overall puzzle to be able to unlock your true potential when it comes to speaking. Now, it's obvious. This is something that I really wanted to work on for so many years of my life, especially after I got involved with Toastmasters, in which we had a variety of different guests, even early on in this podcast, relating to Toastmasters and how they have created some of the best versions of themselves. We even spent some time in the month of November of last year talking about how those people on the show really have taken themselves up to the next level when it comes to their Toastmasters journey and even applying some of the skills that they've learned. If you haven't heard about Toastmasters, it's a wonderful organization that's geared towards public speaking and leadership development. And I encourage everyone to go check out a club near you, whether you are online or in person for that matter. It will help you with not only achieving what's ultimately possible, but you will also be able to network with a whole bunch of people that are like-minded and maybe even going through that fear of public speaking. But let me just back up a bit before I go into more of my sales pitch, as always, about Toastmasters and talk to you about the fear, which is what we're going to overcome in today's episode. I think that we often have to think of a strategy in which we're going to tackle the audience. And I always say to my clients, you need to know your audience before you do anything else so that you're able to have the effective messaging that is necessary to reach them. But it isn't about how you reach that audience, it's about what you do to reach that audience. Surveys, asking questions of the people that you will be working with on developing that keynote message. Even some of the things that are available to you online, for that matter, can help you with drafting that all-important message that you get to practice. It's no secret. I am just starting out in my public speaking journey and continue to work on my professionalism as it relates to that. And I've had plenty of successes already starting out. But those successes started from a homegrown effort of people that have already seen what I've been able to do and continue to build on that word of mouth. Now, there are plenty of podcasts out there, including my friends at the Speaker Lab, that I am really excited to start working with at some point down the road as it relates to drafting that message and being able to be more effective in the delivery of leads and working with others. But it isn't just about doing that from a professional speaking standpoint. I'm looking at you, somebody that's being asked to come up with a presentation in about a couple weeks, and you have to figure out what is necessary for you to be effective. But sometimes even those couple weeks turn into 24 hours. You might be knowing what that audience is and the specific things that you've been working on. But yet, how do you get to the heart of really what's important to reach that all-important point that you're trying to make? And I think that we have to look at the fact that it's not about the strategies that we do. It's about how we can unlock that unbridled power, that way in which we can express ourselves more comfortably, while at the same time being able to express what's also on our hearts. The information that we have to share, whether it's persuasive, informative, engaging, entertaining, regardless of the rationale, the general or specific purpose, as I usually tell my clients you need to know, comes from the fact that we have to be able to understand what's inside of us. Oops! Did I just give you my secret to understand what's in us? What might seem to be a simple overlooked factor in our overall speaking development is sometimes what we miss out on the most, which is connecting with our very selves. Now, you might be scratching your head and asking yourself, yeah, that makes some sense. But the only problem, Josh, is that I have to reach my audience. Those are not me. I am not the same as my audience. So what does me have to do with them? Well, it means everything. Because if you don't have that connection with your audience of the person who is talking to them, you will never be able to reach the other side. And I see speakers do it all the time. They try to start out with a question, maybe even some sort of quote that will connect with the audience in an everyday fashion. But those are some of the tired and true methods. I've seen other speakers that are really good at this, doing some of the most unbelievable things, making their introductions tie into the overall fact of why they're all gathered here today. That is a masterclass speaker that is able to paint a bigger, broader stroke of a picture, in which will help you to connect all the dots by the very end of the story. There was a keynote speaker when I was still going through high school by the name of Sam Glenn. He had a wonderful use of chalk to tell a story, and it was also right after 9/11. You see, Sam really wanted to move the crowd in a variety of different ways. He thought that maybe helping kids understand the importance and the significance of living in America would be the most important thing that you could ever convey. And Sam was able to show it in this wonderful-ass picture of an American eagle as he was telling what he needed to tell the audience in a variety of different broad strokes. Using chalk was one of the most amazing things. Even after over 20 years of not listening to Sam, it still resonates with me. And I think that we often think about the fact that those people that leave that lasting impression left a little bit of themselves as part of that. And I think that's why we have to always think about the fact that it's not just about the people that we reach. It's not just about the things that we're trying to tell them. It's giving them a little bit of us. I was always afraid for the longest time to be able to share my story, let alone even start this podcast, which I can't believe, even as I continue to talk about it with you, that we're 115 episodes in. I would have never imagined that I would be sharing a little bit of myself in every single episode. But here I am, continuing to tell the story, breaking the myths that I often told of myself about public speaking, let alone even on a medium such as a podcast for that matter, to continue to share what is really on my heart, to have that authentic conversation with you, to be able to change what's happening in your heart and the ever-changing world that we live in. But the truth of the matter is, I was always afraid of what that would look like. Trying to manifest something like this is not easy to do. It means actually giving a little bit of yourself, having a little bit of vulnerability, and realizing that if you're going to ever engage and create and reflect on all the things that require us to share with our audience, it means that we have to get over our fear, not just of public speaking, but the fear of ourself, and being open when it really counts the most. As I've recorded these batch of episodes that I continue to record, one of the most pressing things that I always find important is that we need to be able to share our message with somebody that needs to hear it. But if we don't share it soon enough, it's too late to be able to share it with them. And what I mean by that is a friend of mine recently had a death close to her of a friend, not family related, but of a friend, that if she would have just been able to say some of the things that were really on her heart, whether that was through a public speaking medium or some other way, she would have been able to have that relationship be even more meaningful than it already was. Being able to tell people what you really have inside your heart oftentimes means getting on a big stage with over 3,000 to 5,000 people watching and telling them that you care, that you really matter, that it's okay to be afraid of what's ahead, and that changing the fear that we have inside of ourselves means that we have to be able to use the information that we're given in a way that maybe hasn't been presented before, which we've talked about, changing perspectives, changing that mindset. And public speaking is no different. If you're really looking at how somebody can be inspiring or entertaining or humorous, you have to look no further than yourself. I've had a few clients in which I started out last year with working on this concept, and I explored with them not just what they have as hidden stories that oftentimes are overlooked, but even that the smallest story, even the smallest things that have universal applicability, means that you can make a meaningful connection based on the background that you have. So if you want to be the most successful public speaker, let alone have the most important message that you want to share, especially amongst a group of people that you're trying to impress, open up a little bit and don't be afraid of the consequences that might come alongside of it. It doesn't mean that you have to bare your entire soul. And I'm not asking you today to share your credit card numbers or your social security numbers with me so that I know that you have that authentic, meaningful connection. It just means you have to realize that we are all in this together. We all have unique problems and situations that overlap each other. So when you were able to debunk this fear of public speaking by thinking that you have to have this grandiose message, it just means that you have to get over yourself. That is the untold fear that most people don't even understand. If you're able to break that barrier, that wall, if you will, of not only existing with your audience as if you're having a conversation with them, you will never be able to reach the true heights of what public speaking really means. Whether you're leading a training workshop or you're doing something different with your audience as a whole, it means you have to expose a little bit more of yourself than you normally would. And for most people, that is very uncomfortable. It means that you are not feeling good about who you are. And I've had explored on many episodes before about the importance of value creation, learning about who you are as your own identity in order to move towards that purpose. So I encourage you, if you haven't listened to those episodes, go back and listen to that dialogue. Listen to what I have to say when it comes to generating not just that messaging, but that ability to create the best version of yourself. But if you're ever going to get over your fear of yourself in order to become the best public speaker, know that it isn't about just the fear that you have to overcome. It means getting a little bit more comfortable and practicing when it really counts the most. For the longest time in my life, I've always thought that I needed to have all these immense skills. I needed to have this knowledge, these abilities, this background. Of course, everybody needs to have a niche, and I've always struggled to find my niche, especially since I always looked at the world, according to my therapist, as being black and white. I don't think she's too far off from the truth, because I sometimes have a hard time being creative. And being creative means that you have to explore realms that oftentimes are not what are really the things that you should be working on. They're oftentimes the things that you should be working on in order for you to be able to feel like you're connected with everyone. That means going out, exploring what the world has to offer. Stop living in your own bubble, learning that sometimes the troubles that we have in this world are all shared across a common dimension. But it also means opening up before it's too late, because otherwise, that message that you have will never be shared with the world. There was a point in my life over 4 years ago that I thought that I needed to change that message. I needed to keep moving forward. I needed to stop living in the past. I needed to stop thinking that nobody cared. The messages that I told myself were not just on the fact that I had a lot of things going on in my life. It was the fact that I had listened to other people's stories, and them telling me that my story was no good, that my story didn't matter, and that even sometimes, for that matter, the perspective that I would bring was absolutely negative and atrocious. But the thing is, when you know that you are trying to work on yourself and you're really trying to work on the things that you want to do in your life, you pour everything that you ever have, every morsel, crumb, figment of imagination into the power that you know that you can convey to your audience. In other words, stop believing what other people or other things have told you, even your own version of yourself, so that you're able to say, this is my message, and here is why I'm telling it to you today. There are a lot of different ways in which you could go about this. It's not just about writing a bunch of ideas down or even struggling to figure out what is truly necessary for you to feel comfortable about the way that you express it. Whether it's about your vocal variety, your body language, even your eye contact for that matter. Those are just some of the small points that matter in terms of the bigger picture. How do you rope in your audience? How do you create that value proposition that they should be listening to you? What is it that you should conclude with that makes it memorable so that others can remember who you are? I don't know about you, but if you ever want to visit Sam Glenn, maybe he might be one of your first inspirations. I know I'm going to keep looking at him. I know I'm going to keep looking at what he's been able to accomplish, especially since then, which has been a remarkable motivational speaker, author, and artist career that he's had. There's plenty of YouTube videos to prove it. But the things that we're really trying to unlock, the power that we have in ourselves to view that opportunity, has to start with us. Open that window. Look inside your soul. What is it that you're really afraid of not sharing? If you do share it, other people might make fun of you, maybe even ridicule you, maybe even make you feel less of a human. Maybe those are the people that haven't been in your corner all along, and maybe you need to stop listening to them today. Because the message and the power that you can share through your own words, your own body language, the way in which you speak it, could be something of a gift that somebody needs to hear today, and you need to give it before it's too late. I know that after all this time, I am finally doing something that is going to help impact so many different people, and I can't wait to continue to work on that journey, and we'll share it with you and be able to work with you one-on-one. Because I know that every time that I make a step towards that contribution, it's going to be a bigger, better version of who I am. But more importantly, it's going to be a bigger, better version of who you are. And as long as you can look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and know that you're giving it all you got, you can overcome that fear of public speaking. You can not just be successful in the personal and professional development, but you can also achieve greatness in so many more ways than just the financial sense. It's only about what you have that really matters the most. So share that gift today. Start testing it out. And trust me on this. All the success that you ever wanted will be coming your way very soon. Thanks for listening to episode number 115 of Speaking from the Heart. And I look forward to hearing from your heart very soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.